Just what is it about that race? Just as you might have been getting weary of the spring classics yet again, Amstel Gold provided a refreshing reminder that we're not done yet. This week on the Gruppetto, as well as reviewing another heart-stopping finale, we speak to Fred Wright, who tells us what it's been like to be on the front row for those box office clashes between Mattias van der Poel and Tadej Pogačar. The Amstel Gold Race is the youngest of the Northern Spring Classics. Created in the 1960s, it takes place in Limburg, the Netherlands province that spikes down out of the southeast of the country, squashed between Belgium to the west and Germany to the east. In the past few seasons, there's been sensational racing, not least that memorable day when the way these kinds of races are ridden seem to change forever. No Mattias van der Poel this year, but Remco Evenepoel lined up for the first time in his career, and Tadej Pogačar was back at the race he won in 2023. Fellow former winners Wout van Aert and Tom Pidcock were present. It was a stellar cast list rolling out from Maastricht. Before live pictures came from the host broadcasters, there were reports of splits leaving Pog behind, a crash involving Evenepoel, Van Aert and others, but all were safely back in the bunch once the 8 riders in the day's breakaway were caught and the action truly began. It's time for Julian Alaphilippe to go, and Tadej Pogačar wants to go with him. It's Alaphilippe to start the finale, start the party. The fireworks are exploding at the Amstel Gold Race. Tadej Pogačar onto the Kruisberg is doing his thing. He's leaving Alaphilippe behind. Now, if these two got organised, it could get interesting. A nod to Skjelmose and a come with me. 31 seconds. Tadej Pogačar's gap is into single digits. Adam, I have never seen Tadej Pogačar look around, look behind him so often.
Never seen him being caught, Rob, on a solo attack. Never seen him being caught. Get the distance and be brought back.
And they try to go straight past him. It's Evenepoel who's there. Skjelmose as well. What a race we are seeing. Here we go. That final turn. An iconic climb now returns to its rightful place. It's the Kaalberg, the final climb in the Amstel Gold, and we have 3 icons themselves leading the way up. Now it's Pogačar behind who's going to go. It's Evenepoel at the front. Evenepoel still there. Pogačar trying to come around. A reminder that Pogačar went with 42 Ks to go, but this time he was caught. He's now gaining. He's gaining. It's Evenepoel on the left-hand side. It's Skjelmose coming around. They're all coming to the line together. They do, and it's Skjelmose who's done it. Mattias Skjelmose beating the Olympic champion and the world champion. It's incredible. What a moment. The biggest one-day win of his career. And it's safe to say that Mattias Skjelmose stunned even himself before the realisation and emotion set in.
Can you believe this? You beat Pogačar, you beat Evenepoel.
No, I really don't. I was telling Remco all the time that I was please pull the climbs. I'm on the limit. I think Remco did perfect. I tried to have a bit of a gap and go on the right because the wind came from the left. But Remco went right, and then Tadej went right as well. So I had to go on the left side, and I think in the end, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
What was in your mind when you felt that you passed Pogačar?
I didn't believe it. I really didn't believe it. I was no, something is wrong. No, it's not true.
What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you?
It means so much. I had so much bad luck this season already, and it's super hard mentally. I lost my granddad a bit more than a month ago, and I really want to give him a win, and so this is for him.
So when Pog takes off like that, he is beatable after all. But what happened? Was Pogačar suffering the after effects of recovering from a unique race last week in Roubaix? Did he go too early following Alaphilippe's attack and get burned himself? That would be a rarity. Was it an off day? Or simply, was he beaten by the best on the day? We'd love to get your take on it. Lots of theories around, lots of discussion as always. So let us have your reaction in the comments section below this video. Whatever your thoughts on his showing on the road, it seems, however, Poggy won the other Amstel race on the podium. Early on in the women's race, home superstar Demi Vollering had already been on the deck, but she was back on her bike as a 20-plus strong rider group was making the race just prior to the final lap. Puk Pieterse and Juliette Labousse were the main instigators, but as Ellen van Dijk and Misha Bredevold approached, the main story was about to play out.
Ellen van Dijk goes on her next attack here, dropped to the back of the group, and they're looking around at each other. Ellen van Dijk makes a move. Misha Bredevold is going to go with her. Is Misha Bredevold going to make a move? She is. She's not going to leave it to the sprint. Misha Bredevold, no, she's got the strength to try and take this one. The 24-year-old Dutch rider, Ellen van Dijk, gritting her teeth. This is a phenomenal ride here by Misha Bredevold. Bredevold looks back over the shoulder. Puk Pieterse is dragging Juliette Labousse and Ellen van Dijk back in here. 300 metres now for Misha Bredevold. Perfectly timed move on the bottom of the Cowperg. This is a huge moment for the 24-year-old Dutch rider who comes through to take the Amstel Gold Race in front of a home crowd. Biggest win of her career. Bredevold takes it.
Bredevold's second win of the season, and alongside her 2023 European title, probably her most memorable career success to date. For the third time in the history of this race, an all-Dutch podium enjoyed the refreshment, courtesy of the sponsors. Prior to the action in Dutch Limburg and back in Belgium, it had been a story of comebacks heading to the Brabantse Pijl. A return to racing for both Remco Evenepoel, who hadn't yet raced after a nasty training crash at the beginning of the year, and Elisa Longo Borghini, who'd been suffering from concussion since a really bad crash in Flanders. There were no lingering effects on show at all, as the Italian champion picked up where she'd left off the last time she was able to finish by winning. Able to get ahead and hold off the advancing pack, she's one of the best in the world when in front. A 51st career victory, her fourth since moving to her new UAE ADQ team. Marianne Vos beat Femke Gerritsen into second place. With its new place on the calendar, coming just 2 days before the Amstel Gold, the men's race was over 30 kilometres shorter. Change of day, different start town, from Wednesday to Friday, and the bunch now lining up in Beersel as opposed to Leuven. The race was still centred, however, on loops of Overijse. In the middle of those loops, Wout van Aert launched an attack 50 kilometres from the finish, moving on the final cobbles of the spring, the Moskestraat. 2 kilometres later, it was Evenepoel's turn before Van Aert went again, and Joe Blackmore was able to follow the two Belgian stars until he couldn't. All signs pointed to a Van Aert sprint to come around Evenepoel and finally a spring victory, but Remco let it out and crowned his comeback with a win close to home. At the Ronde van Limburg, home rider Milan Fretin took his third win of the season. Hailing from Genk in Belgian Limburg, the Cofidis fast man was the fastest in a bunch kick, cementing his status as one of the sprinters to keep an eye on at the upcoming Giro D'Italia. Fretin is now the team's top point scorer this season. The 24-year-old Belgian's form for the rest of the year could now be key to see if the French squad can avoid relegation from the World Tour. The 4-day Giro d'Abruzzo was the penultimate Italian stage race before the big one starts, the Giro d'Italia. Intermarché and UAE Emirates were the only two World Tour teams in attendance, and it was the most successful team of the past couple of seasons who took the opening day's honours. Alessandro Corvi showed strength to take his first victory since that last meaningful stage of the 2022 Giro on the Passo Fedaya. That was almost 3 calendar years ago. He wore the maglia bianca verde blu, the white, green and blue leader's jersey, at the start of another up and down stage through what is one of Italy's most rugged, mountainous regions. Corvi's team would win the stage through a late Ivo Oliveira attack, but then they'd lose the jersey as VF Group Bardiani's Filippo Fiorelli finished second and took enough bonus seconds to snatch the overall lead. That situation, however, was only likely to last for a day, given that stage 3 was set to end with a 16-kilometre climb to a summit finish at Roccaraso. The weather was shocking, And a shock was on the cards when, with 8 kilometres to go, 24-year-old Edison Alejandro Callejas took advantage of a GC contender standoff to ride away. The Colombian had never won a pro bike race, but he was able to take it home to give his Forte Petrolite team their biggest ever victory on European roads. Behind, Georg Zimmermann did enough to move into the leader's jersey. So to the final stage, and a rare opportunity for Andermatt to win a stage race overall. Almost a year since the ZLM Tour win by Rune Herregods, Zimmermann was trying to do the same for his team. The team rallied around him, with Louis Meintjes trying to control a strong breakaway and prevent further attacks. The break was down to 2 and took a healthy lead into the final couple of kilometres. Former teammates Sjoerd Boks and Ivo Oliveira fought out the stage win, with the latter prevailing for the second time in the space of 3 days. Zimmermann finished safely behind to win his first ever Pro GC prize ahead of Spaniards David de la Cruz and Pablo Torres. 1 week to go in the Spring Classics, and one man has been busier than most in the past few weeks. Bahrain Victorious's Fred Wright. And despite the busy schedule, the former British champion made time to talk Pog, Van der Poel and the Tour de France after a busy ride to Roubaix.
So Fred Wright, finally, absolutely brilliant to have you on the Gruppetto. Thanks for joining us. Fresh off Paris-Roubaix, first of all, how do you feel?
Yeah, how I would expect to feel, to be honest. I'm pretty battered. It's races are hard, but then obviously you add the cobbles into the mix and it adds a whole extra layer of fatigue to a big one-day classic. I always think, at the end of whether it's Ghent, Wevelgem, Flanders, all these sort of races that are getting close to 6 hours plus, the next morning you almost feel almost hungover. It's like the body's not in a good place. So no, I've woken up this morning feeling a little bit less hungover than the day before, but yeah, it's not it takes it out of you, that's for sure. I have to say, I'm glad I'm doing it in this sort of generation, because to be honest, the tyres and the equipment we've got now, I think we've got it a bit easier than they had before. I had a pretty similar setup to last year, and last year I had more blisters, but this year I've actually come out fairly unscathed. I've got one blister on my hand, but it's not too bad. So to be honest, I've done pretty well, but it is, that's not doing it justice. You still get to the Arenberg Forest and you sort of, everything's ringing, so to speak. It's like your teeth are jarring together. It's horrendous, but I think, back when they were on 25 mil tyres and less, I think I can't imagine what it must have been like. Because plus we're going faster as well. The thing is with cobbles, obviously, the faster you go, the easier it gets, and you kind of almost have to keep telling yourself that as you're slowly slugging along the Carrefour at the end.
It's funny, actually, with the gear, because obviously this year was different. There's a little bit of rain, wasn't there? But the 3 years previous, we had speed records broken every year. And all the old pros will say, no, but the gear they're using is incredible. I mean, you possibly must have noticed that even since you've been riding it, how faster everything's going.
Yeah, I really have a strong memory of, it was my first year pro in 2020, and it was just when things were restarting again. And at that time, it looked like we were going to still have a Roubaix in 2020. Obviously, we didn't. It was still on the cards. So I did a recon with Heinrich Hausler, and he basically just completely kicked my head in for 3 hours or whatever of Roubaix, all on the cobbles. I think we were up pretty high up on the segment, actually, for Carrefour. And that was back then, that was testing these sort of newer 32 mil tyres, back in 2020. And I remember, not quite realising it at the time, but Heiner being like, Fred, these tyres, they're the most amazing. They're just amazing. They're incredible. I've never felt this great on cobbles. And I was sort of like, still sort of, I just got my head kicked in. So I was like, this is horrendous. Roubaix is horrible. But I think, obviously what he'd been used to in the past, and then these sort of slightly wider, going a bit wider and being able to run a bit lower and stuff. I think it obviously, it has definitely made a big difference.
I'd love to talk to you about this. Pogačar, Van der Poel, you look back at the last 3 years, it's either been one or the other for most of the monuments. Certainly the ones they're competing together. You could maybe push Lombardy aside because you don't often see Van der Poel there and what have you. But what's it like having a front row seat to this history? Because it seems where I'm sitting in the commentary box, like every week you're saying, oh, this is happening, it's historical, and there's a record, and you sometimes think you're overdoing it, but then you look down at the stats and it is historical, there is a record. What's it like witnessing that from the front?
It's amazing to be in this era of cycling and to be racing with these guys. They do sort of carry an aura around them in the peloton as well. It's like you got especially even in Roubaix, it's like you got sort of the UAE team, the Alpecin team, everyone's kind of both against each other. It's fascinating. I was going to say that it's funny in San Remo that, I'd almost have liked to have been able to watch it on TV, listen to you commentating, whereas there I am, just desperately hanging on in the second group on the Cipressa and trying to survive. And these two, them guys are sort of taking chunks out of each other in the front. So it's, I didn't actually get to watch very much of that in San Remo, but it was. I then watched plenty of it afterwards, and it was definitely pretty special. But no, it's fascinating, and I think it's fascinating as well for me, just trying to work out how to get results and how to do well when these guys are there and so strong. Like I've had a bit of a rough plan in Roubaix. Obviously, things went wrong a bit for me on Arenberg, but you really have to try and in the classics just try and basically try and get ahead of them and and let them come to you, or hope that they don't come to you, or whatever. It's nice. It was good to see. It's good to see someone like Pedersen actually be able to. I think without that puncture actually on Sunday, I think he would have been fighting for the win as well. So yeah, it's an amazing time for cycling, that's for sure. It's just when you're suffering on the bike, thanks to them too, it's maybe not. So yeah, there is always that kind of. Yeah, so how are we gonna? Because you do have to believe in winning, otherwise, what are we doing? So yeah, it's trying to work out how to do it. But they are just phenomenal riders. It's really quite. Yeah, it's I guess it's an honour to race in this era of cycling.
And we want to see you back at the Tour de France, of course. I mean, you described it at the time the other year when you were talking to our good mate Daniel Friebe as the worst day in your life, the worst moment of your life. I'm gonna throw something alternative onto that, because I think that day, I mean, you had a lot of fans already, but I think you got a heck of a lot more fans after that. That day we saw everything you go through, everything it means, and I'm pretty sure you won a lot of fans back then. So I think there's a heck of a lot of people as well who can't wait to see you back in that race.
Yeah, I think I've definitely taken some. I think you're right. I think back in the moment, it just seemed like the end of. Yeah, it was just awful. But you realise that everything that. I'd say, that happened for a reason, maybe just to, you realise, okay, well, that didn't go right. I got, that went wrong. That you realise the mistakes maybe you made, and then it's only going to lead to, hopefully, positive things. Yeah, in the next time I'd give the Tour a crack, which will be this year, which is fast approaching. And yeah, I think just, even after last year, that experience of the Tour, my goal for this year it wasn't even to, I wasn't thinking, I want to win this race, I want to do this. It was more just, I just want to be back, racing at the front end of the biggest bike races in the world. And yeah, that's really the goal for the Tour this year. I'm not going to say, I'm going to win, I'm going to try and win this stage, but just to be at the point in the end again would be amazing, because it's the hardest bike race in the world, and to be at the front of it is so difficult. And I think I didn't, maybe a few years ago when I was fighting for breaks, maybe I didn't realise how great that was just to have those moments. And so yeah, I'm really looking to find that again this year.
Looking at the Tour, of course, you've got Lenny Martinez now in your team. I don't know if there's a different plan for the team this year. Do you think you still get your freedom, or is that something that you've not spoken about yet?
I think it's, with Lenny, it's going to be it's a sort of step-by-step process. We were working with him obviously in Paris-Nice, and it's amazing to have him in the team in a race in France. I can't wait to be at the Tour with all the fans for Lenny. It's like already Paris-Nice we had more people on the bus than ever before. I think the Tour is going to be it's going to be really special, that's for sure. So no, I think he's obviously still really young, and we got to look after him. But no, he's got a massive future ahead of him. So I think and then obviously him and then Santi will be there as well. But like sort of similar to Paris-Nice, basically. That's the goal, is to build and hopefully for Santi to improve on last year as well. So now we've got GC ambitions, but yeah, I think I'm always going to have my eye out on some stages. I think the team are aware of that as well. So if I put myself in physically the right place, I'll be able to try some things for sure.
Well, that wraps it up for this week. A reminder that you've got the Tour of the Alps from Monday to Friday, stages 1 through to 5. That's the final Italian tune-up for the big one, the Giro d'Italia, that is very quickly approaching. On Wednesday afternoon, men's and women's Flèche Wallonne, before women's and men's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the final spring monument. That's the last big one-day race before the Grand Tour season begins, with the women's Vuelta and the men's Giro d'Italia. It's coming, isn't it? May's nearly here, but with another monument first. See you at the weekend for more. Until then, from the Gruppetto, goodbye.